The House will come to order. Today's Pledge of Allegiance is by Jeremy Suring, Charlotte Olszewski, Gabby Damasco, Aiden Birkenfeld, and they are from Two Rivers Community School in Glenwood Springs.
Please join us in the pledge.
Representatives Arndt, Becker J, Becker K, Beckman, Benavides, Bridges, Buck, Buckner, Carver, Carver, Catlin, Coleman, Covarrubias, Danielson, Escar, Everett, Exum, Foote, Garnett, Janal, Gray, Hamner, Hanson, Harrod, Hooten, Humphrey, Jackson, Kennedy, Kraft-Tharp, Landgraf, Lawrence, Lee, Leonard, Lewis, Liston, Lontine, Lundeen, McKean, McLaughlin, Melton, Michelson Janae, Neville, Pabone, Pedersen, Rankin, Ransom, Ryer, Ryer,
Excuse.
Representative Ryer is present. Roberts, Rosenthal,
Okay, nervous.
Sane, Salazar,
You got
Sandridge, Sias, Singer,
And I have a nice little presentation. PowerPoint. Oh, okay. Excused.
Where's Faith? I haven't seen her. She's
Thurlow.
On appropriations, so she's probably filtering over here.
Okay. The only thing is, I want to be able to, and you can share.
Thurlow.
I want to present the bill with you.
Excuse.
Okay.
It's not a bill of mine.
Valdez.
Okay,
Van Winkle.
Thank you so much. If you help me get that message to her.
I will do that.
And I was telling
Weissman.
her I was on my knees, I was begging, I kissed the ring.
Willett. Williams.
But it would mean the world to me if
Wilson.
it's
Winkler.
Okay, I will let her know.
Winter. Representative Winter.
She might be in the program, but I don't know.
I'm good. I'm so good.
Representative Winter is excused.
Wist. Young. Madam Speaker.
Summary of the amendment to the 14th. So I just want to make sure you're still in support. Ultimately,
It's my big moment. I get to shine at the beginning of this.
it takes away the mandatory requirement.
With 62 present and 3 excused, we do have a quorum. Representative Bridges.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the reading of the Journal of Tuesday, May 1st, 2018 be dispensed with, approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
All right. You heard the motion that was said very fast. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed signify by saying no. No! The ayes have it. Announcements and introductions. Any announcements or introductions this morning? It's very loud in here today. Representative Buck. And Representative McKean, good morning.
Good morning, Madam Speaker. Members, I would like a moment of personal privilege.
Members, a motion of personal privilege is granted.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you to have my comrade up here, Representative Hugh McKean. A Loveland soldier was killed in action in Afghanistan on Monday. Specialist Gabriel D. Conde, 22, was involved in a firefight and was killed when he was hit by enemy small arms fire. Conde is the first Northern Colorado resident to be killed in action since Staff Sergeant Christopher Birdwell of Windsor, who died in 2012. Conde was a graduate of Berthoud High School.
Thank you, Representative Buck.
Representative McKean.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We just said the Pledge of Allegiance. It's that moment, I think, every morning when we stop and just think about the fact that we serve people in the capacity we serve, but others serve in harm's way. I don't know how many of you remember the number of soldiers where we stood on the side of the road and watched them go by and gave their families that honor. We think often that these conflicts we're involved in are not current because they're removed from the news, because we don't hear about troops coming home every day, because we don't hear the news every day. Incredibly real, incredibly difficult for a family and for a community today to say, you know, here is a conflict that's still going on, and we've lost one of our own. So if you don't mind, just a moment of silence. Let's remember that family. Let's remember their friends. Let's remember all those who are serving for us.
Moment of silence is granted.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, members. Further announcements or introductions? Representative Rankin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Does everybody know where Glenwood Springs, Colorado is? Raise your
I
hand.
do.
Been in the Hut Springs in Glenwood Springs. This morning, we're honored to have 36 kids from the Two Rivers Charter School in Glenwood Springs, along with their teacher, James Nins. Let's welcome them. It's rumored that in this school, all the girls are beautiful and the men are above average in both athletics and scholarship. So welcome our kids.
Welcome to the Capitol. I'm very thankful for the students who did the Pledge of Allegiance this morning: Charlotte Olszewski, Jeremy Suring, Gaby Damasco, and Aiden Birkenfill. Thanks, Representative Rankin. Further announcements or introductions? Minority Leader Neville.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I just want to welcome Rod Pelton, the County Commissioner in Cheyenne.
All right, welcome to the Capitol. Further announcements or introductions?
We're going to go into special orders.
Seeing no further announcements or introductions. Reports of committees of reference.
Committee on Appropriations, after consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following bills be referred to the Committee of the Whole unamended with favorable recommendation. Senate Bill 16, Senate Bill 24, Senate Bill 31, Senate Bill 39, Senate Bill 86, Senate Bill 167, Senate Bill 218. The committee also recommends the following bills be amended as follows, and as amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1422, House Bill 1425, Senate Bill 38, Senate Bill 42, Senate Bill 163, Senate Bill 203, Senate Bill 233, and Senate Bill 266.
All right, thank you, Mr. Randall. Any further announcements or introductions? Seeing none. Madam Majority Leader Becker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the following bills be made special orders at 9:31 this morning. House Bill 1433, House Bill 1425, House Bill 1422, House Bill 1418, House Bill 1427, Senate Bill 235, Senate Bill 239, House Bill 1397, Senate Concurrent Resolution 003, Senate Bill 44.
All right, members, you have heard the motion. Seeing no objection, that a motion stands. Representative Jackson.
Madam Speaker, I move that the House now resolve itself to the Committee of the Whole for consideration of special orders.
Seeing no objection, Representative Jackson will take the chair.
will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there is a request for reading a bill at length. Committee amendments will not be read unless requested, as they are printed in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen and on your iPads and not read unless requested. Bills will be laid over upon motion of the majority leader, and the coat rule is relaxed. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1433.
House Bill 1433, by Representative Gray, House Senator Tate, concerning modifications to the Naturopathic Doctor Act and requiring a naturopathic doctor to disclose the naturopathic doctor is registered and updating the terms that the naturopathic doctor may use.
Representative Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1433. There is no committee report.
To the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill brings our statutes back in line with the national practice of referring to naturopathic doctors as naturopathic doctors. The current terminology in statutes can lead to some...
Members, it is very loud in here. I cannot hear anybody at the well, so please take your conversations to the side. Representative Gray, please continue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill will help consumers understand what they're getting when they go to visit a naturopathic doctor. I would ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1433. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1433 is adopted. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1425.
House Bill 1425, by Representatives Lee and Wist, concerning creation of a legislative committee to study the state prison population.
Representative Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1425 and the Appropriations Committee report.
To the Appropriations Committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Appropriations Committee appropriated $39,000 to provide staffing for this committee. Ask for an aye vote on the Appropriations Committee report.
Is there any further discussion on the Appropriations Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Appropriations Committee report is adopted. To the bill, Representative Wist. Assistant Minority Leader Wist.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I've been to the well quite a bit this session talking about the importance of getting our DOC fiscal policy in order. We have had a robust discussion in this chamber about those issues, and I think we've gotten to a place where we have now provided some utilization targets that we would like DOC to hit, and we have significantly impacted this budget process in a good way. I want to congratulate all of you for the role that you have played in that process. This conversation will continue, and from the work that the working group did, we were convinced that this needed to be a committee with some additional runway to continue to work on these issues on your behalf. This will be a joint Senate-House effort, and I think we're clearly on the right path with respect to our DOC budget. Let's continue to stay the course, and I ask for an aye vote on 1425.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1425. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1425 is adopted.
Is it? Okay.
Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1422.
House Bill 1422, by Representative Gray, also Senator John, concerning requirements for marijuana testing facilities.
Representative Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1422 till the end of the second reading calendar.
You have heard the motion. House Bill 1422 will be laid over as requested by the Majority Leader. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1418.
House Bill 1418, by Representative Weissman, House Senators Quorum and Kagan, concerning the use of criminal convictions in employment.
Representative Weissman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move 1418 and the Judiciary Committee report.
To the Judiciary Committee report, Representative Weissman.
Thank you. The committee report makes some consensus stakeholder changes brought at the request of CDAC and the Department of Reg agencies. Post introduction of the bill, there was no objection to the committee report. I ask for your support.
Is there any further discussion on the Judiciary Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Judiciary Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Judiciary Committee report is adopted. To the bill, Representative Weissman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, 1418 is a bill that comes from CCJJ's Reentry Task Force. The purpose is to knock down government regulatory barriers so that folks may get back to work, earn a living, provide for themselves and their families after they have had some justice system involvement. The bill was 11-0 out of Judiciary yesterday. I ask for your support.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1418. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1418 is adopted. Madam Majority Leader Becker.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I move to lay over House Bill 1427, one bill.
You have heard the motion. House Bill 1427 will be laid over one bill as requested by the Majority Leader. Mr. Rando, please read the title of Senate Bill 235.
Senate Bill 235 by Senator Quorum, also Representative Warren, concerning the creation of the Colorado Industrial Hemp Research and Development Authority.
Representative Arndt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 18235. There is no committee report.
To the bill, Representative Arndt.
This bill creates an 8-member industrial hemp research and development task force that all voluntary boards set up to see if we should indeed create a hemp industrial research and development institute in Colorado. We're not sure if that's a good idea, so let's get together and talk about it, and the report is due in December. I urge an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 235. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Senate Bill 235 is adopted. Representative Arndt.
Representative Becker.
Oops. Mr. Rando, please read the title of Senate Bill 239.
Oh, we're not at 239? We're not at 2... There we are. 1427. Oh, sorry.
That's all right. Madam Majority Leader Becker.
Here they come.
Mr. Rando, please read the title of House Bill 1427.
House Bill 1427 by Representatives Harrod and Wist, all Senator Sonnenberg, concerning a prohibition on conflicts of interest of members of the Sex Offender Management Board.
Representative Harrod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
And such an honor to serve with you as well.
Good to see you up there. I move House Bill 1427 and the Judiciary Committee report.
To the Judiciary Committee report.
Members, in the Judiciary Committee, we made two small amendments. One ensured that the folks like the DAs, counties, and others can serve on the Sex Offender Management Board without conflict. And that was Amendment L001, which struck state and added a governmental entity. And the other amendment allowed more time for implementation of the bill. It extended the effective date of the bill by 1 year, and I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on the Judiciary Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Judiciary Committee report. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Judiciary Committee report is adopted. To the bill, Assistant Minority Leader Wist.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, this bill is about conflicts of interest, and it's about clarifying that members of the SOMB may not have a direct financial benefit from contracts that are engaged in or entered into by the state. It seems like it's obvious public policy that people should not be benefiting from their service. They should not have a direct financial benefit in the work that they do on behalf of the state. And this bill simply clarifies and codifies that conflicts of interest are not appropriate with respect to the work done by this board. The work done by the board is very important, but it's important that we have impartiality and transparency in that process. I want to thank Representative Harrod for her leadership and partnership on this issue, and I ask you for an aye vote.
Representative Harrod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, we had a great discussion in the Judiciary Committee. Conflicts of interest that result in certain members making millions of dollars off of the guidelines and recommendations set by the board. It's just not acceptable. It's not the way that we do business, and it's not something that we should tolerate on our boards and commissions. And I am appreciative of the Judiciary Committee as well as my co-prime Representative Cole West for your leadership on this, but I want to let folks know that this did pass out of committee unanimously, 11-1, and I asked for an aye, or 11-0, and I asked for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Rosenthal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I do have a question. Sorry, I wasn't able to chat with you beforehand. This came up so suddenly, and I wasn't on Judiciary Committee. So I guess my question for you is, I guess my question or concern is that the people oftentimes who know issues the most are folks who are in the industry, and of course, folks who are in the industry, and I know that we see this also on the Oil and Gas Commission, where we have folks who actually work in the industry and they know a lot about the industry, and of course they are influenced by and maybe even receive benefit from some of the rules and regulations and some of the decisions by the board. And so I'm wondering, I guess that's sort of a concern that I have, is that they know a lot and they know in-depth information that perhaps other folks who are on the board do not know, because they may not be as in-depth in terms of their work in that environment.
Representative Herod.
Thank you, Representative Rosenthal, for your question. This question did come up in the committee, and I'm glad that you asked it. Let me be clear that experts in the field can still participate in the SOMB. They can still serve on the Best Practices Committee, on advisory boards and advisory committees. They're not precluded from participating in the discussion whatsoever. However, if they have direct financial benefit that from a contract, not from a salary, salaries are excluded, but from a contract from the state, then that is problematic, and they can't have a voting position on the SOMB, but they can still advise and still participate. Now, we have over 200 mental health treatment professionals that are involved in this space, in the sex offender management space. They do not all have conflicts. And so we should be able to find good people to serve on this board. We are giving the public safety an extra year to implement this bill so they can do a search process. We have come to an agreement with the Department of Public Safety, so they're now neutral, who oversees the SOMB as well as the first floor, because they do feel like that this would allow them the time to get done what they need to get done. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1427. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1427 is adopted. Now, Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 239.
Senate Bill 239 by Senator Marble, also Representatives Arndt and Becker J, concerning a licensed chiropractor's ability to perform animal chiropractic on an animal patient.
Representative Becker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 239.
To the bill, Representative Arndt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 239 is a perfect example when two different groups come together and make a compromise. It's about the Chiropractor Association and the Veterinary Medical Association, and allows chiropractors to perform services on animal patients without prior veterinary medical clearance if certain conditions are met. The vets and the chiropractors are both sat down in favor of it. It's been unanimous all the way along, and honestly, this is exactly what we're looking for when there's a good idea out there and people come together. We urge an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Salazar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'm wondering if it's within protocol, because I missed the last bill. If I could come up here in strong support of the last bill?
Yeah.
Representative Salazar, I think we're on Senate Bill 239.
Okay, well, I rise in strong support of the last bill.
Representative Escar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I stand strong in support of this bill, Senate Bill 239, and just want to thank the sponsors of the bill. I think I may have been one of the no votes last year because of all of the confusion and issues between the chiropractors and the vets. Thank you for the hard work on this, bringing them all together to make sure we have a great bill moving forward. I urge and I vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 239. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Senate Bill 239 is adopted. The ayes have it. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 44.
Senate Bill 44 by Senator Crowder, also Representative Landgraf, concerning the ability of private employers to give preference to veterans in making certain employment decisions.
Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, we've already moved the bill, and we moved the committee report and passed that. Okay, so including the committee report, I move House Bill or Senate Bill 44 and the committee report from. Yes.
Representative Landgraf, there is a State Affairs Committee report. Or there is not a State Affairs Committee report. There isn't? I have one.
But we already passed that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I ask for a brief recess.
The House will stand in a brief recess.
The committee will come back to order. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over Senate Bill 44, one bill.
At the request of Majority Leader, Senate Bill 44 will be laid over one bill. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1397.
House Bill 1397 by Representative Jackson, House Senator Moreno, concerning modifications to the residential warranty of habitability for the purpose of protecting renters.
Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a really important bill for the people of our state. It's been a decade since the warranty of habitability statutes have been updated. Basically, Habitability means to be fit for human habitation. The bill does some very simple things, sets a timeline for landlords, and I would ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Representative Jackson. Could you please move the bill?
I'm sorry, I move House Bill 1397, and I do have an amendment.
House Bill 1397 has been properly moved. Would you like to further discussion or move the amendment? Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment L001 and ask that it be displayed.
Amendment L001 has been properly moved and is displayed before us. Further discussion on the amendment, Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the things that we inadvertently left out is we do not want tenants to just hire anybody to make a repair to their property. So they are required to get an estimate before a repair is made. And so this amendment says that that estimate can't be made by a family member, whatnot. It needs to be a professional within the industry. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L001? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L001. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Amendment L001 is adopted. To the bill, Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an incredibly important bill. I'm going to tell you some specifics about what it does.
Representative Jackson, 1 second. Members, can we please have some quiet? And we're on second reading. Please take your conversations to the side. Representative Jackson.
So one of the issues here is the way that the current statute is written. The law currently greatly favors a landlord, meaning that if a tenant complains about any problem that deals with their safety within their property, the landlord actually has an opportunity to retaliate. They can evict a tenant, they can raise their rent, because the only legal presumption that has to be made by the landlord is that they're acting in good faith. And we had plenty of folks in the room. I don't know if you saw, the committee room was full of people, with people outside, and we had attorneys in there who represent these tenants. And these attorneys were telling us that as the statutes are currently written, they have not been able to win a case. So again, this is just so that people can live safely. We have worked really hard to make sure that landlords are protected as well. And again, members, I would ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Ransom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We heard this bill in committee, and yes, we did hear from some tenants, from people that rent apartments that had issues with problems with their landlords. However, we already have in state law an implied warranty of habitability, so that there already are statutes that require landlords to keep to have a safe property available, and allowing tenants to start making repairs and then deducting it from the rent is really unfair to landlords. And remember, these are the people that own the property. These are people that have maybe owned a home or an apartment or a duplex for many, many years, and they are often having their entire life savings into a property that they're trying to use for their retirement or their being able to pay their own bills. And one of the issues that they added that I found interesting was mold. And while I do agree that mold can be unsanitary and unsafe and cause breathing problems, remember that mold it can be brought in by lack of upkeep to the property. It's not necessarily something innate in the walls or in the property itself. If the tenant doesn't take care of the property, there can be mold, and then all of a sudden we're adding all of these additional requirements and additional laws and injunctive relief and civil rights to the tenants. So we did hear from people that were in opposition as well, including landlords. I know I spoke to someone that owns a house in my district just to ask him how this would affect him, and he was very strong on being negative on this bill, just to start giving tenants more right than the people that actually own the property was a bad precedent, he thought. Once again, this bill did pass out of Health Insurance Committee, but it passed on a party line 7-6 vote. So I urge a no vote on the bill.
Representative Beckman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also stand in opposition of 1397. I believe that everyone deserves to live in safe homes, and that this bill is well intended, but a recent radio show on this from Colorado Public Radio talked about the advocates pushing this, that really it is a movement for rent strikes. Now, I don't know if that is true, but in this bill, there is a lot of additional opportunities for people to stop paying rent to landlords. Colorado already has significant consumer protection laws regulating rental agreements, considerable. This bill has unrealistic expectations. There's no balance at all between the tenant and the landlord. And in all bills, what may sound like a good idea, the devil's in the details. And when you read it, it becomes deeply concerning. The expectation on the landlord is very unrealistic, one-sided, and I believe punitive. One of the issues that I have about this bill is that it takes the local code enforcement and building inspectors out of the scenario, which means that a building apartment.
Representative Beckman, one moment. Members, it's very loud in here. We can't hear the speaker. If you have conversations, please take them to the side or outside. Representative Beckman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the concerns on this legislation is that it takes building inspectors and code enforcement at the local level out of the scenario of who would designate the apartment or building uninhabitable. I know in my community, Littleton, we have great code enforcement and building inspectors. They have actually gone into units and had them fix some of the deficiencies in a short time. This bill, as it was previously discussed, adds mold, a condition that could be deemed uninhabitable. It is not in the current statute, and it has not been proven to be a major hazardous health issue for renters, especially if it's just a little mold in the bathroom. This legislation is about excessive regulation, and it changes the definition from what is habitable to that is currently to something that is life, health, or safety to affect someone's health of the tenant. It does have one good idea, and that idea is to allow for electronic communications between the landlord and the tenant. That's very important. But the bill reduces the time for the condition to be addressed, like if you have a refrigerator that breaks down or a microwave, to 24 hours or to 72 hours. We had many landlords discuss that this was not doable. It takes longer than that to order a new appliance. There was some concern in committee that this bill will be equal and comparable to construction defect laws, and that it will just move things away from local code enforcement, local building inspectors, to civil court, and it will increase cost and decrease supply in the area of renting apartments and units in a very difficult market as it already is. This is a huge overreach, and it is very one-sided. I would ask for a no vote.
Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do believe that there are some good parts of this bill and parts that need to go forward, and one of those is to allow notification by electronic means, because let's face it, that's the way we communicate in this day and age. But a couple things, not that they were bad, but that it was not clearly written. So it specifically says that you can, as a tenant, you can go out and withhold the costs of repairs, and then it goes on to say that you may not make those repairs. So I just thought that language was a little loose. And the other issue I had is a tenant can withhold their rent, but the landlord has to go to court to get it back if it's done in error. And I think that is going to cause a lot of problems.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to comment on some of the things that were said. Yes, as the statutes are written, and they're a little chunky right now because they were written a decade ago and have not been updated, there is an implied warranty, and that implied warranty tends to favor the landlord. And you're right, the tenants don't make the repairs because it is actually the landlord's property and should be the landlord that does make the repair. And, you know, as far as local building inspectors being taken out of the loop here, not everything is actually a code violation. And it's interesting, too, because the city of Denver called me yesterday and they were like, wow, you know, local code violations, we're really not concerned about that because we're actually in favor of this bill. And we took care of the language in regards to a tenant not making the repairs and making sure that it was somebody who was qualified to make those repairs, because we do not, when they get an estimate, that they get the estimate from somebody who's qualified to make those repairs, and then of course it is up to the landlord to make sure that those repairs are done properly. And I'll just say one quick thing about mold. You know, we heard testimony about, oh my gosh, the tenant can bring it in because they're dirty, or because, you know, maybe the bread has mold in it. I don't know if you all know the kind of climate we live in, but it's a little dry. If there's a lot of mold, it's because there's a serious problem. I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Landgraf. Look at this amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since I'm pretty sure this bill is going to pass, I would like to move Amendment L002 and ask that it be displayed.
Yeah, come talk to us.
So,
Amendment L002 has been properly displayed. Is there further discussion?
there may be a typo in this,
Representative Landgraf.
but since I believe there is a typo, I will withdraw my amendment.
Amendment L002 has been properly withdrawn. To the bill. Is there any further discussion on the bill? Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Landgraf, I am so glad that we can still have a sense of humor in these final days. Thank you for withdrawing your amendment.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I urge a strong no vote on this. Yet again, another bill that's going to result in the rise of the cost of living in Colorado. Home ownership prices and rental property prices are sky high because of a lack of inventory. Bills like these are going to create a disincentive for people to actually offer their properties for rent at a decent price, going to result in less rental inventory, therefore making homeownership prices and rental property prices go up even more than they already have. I urge a no vote.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1397? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1397. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No! The ayes have it. House Bill 1397 passes. The House will stand in a brief recess.
Mr. Randall, please read the title to Senate Bill 40. Oh, sorry. The House will come back to order. The committee will come back to order. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 44.
Senate Bill 44 by Senator Crowder, House Representative Landgraf, concerning the ability of private employers to give preference to veterans in making certain employment decisions.
Representative Landgraf to the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 44, and I do have an amendment.
Would you like to move your amendment?
Yes, Madam Chair. I move Amendment L008
And
and ask that it be displayed.
The amendment is properly moved and displayed. Would you like to explain your amendment?
Yes, Madam Chair. All this does is strikes the language that requires notification that a business does give preference in writing. It strikes that.
Is there an
Ask for a yes vote.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L008? Representative Melton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sorry, the notification, I don't have the bill right in front of me, but can you point out?
It strikes the veterans' preference employment policy is in writing.
Okay.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I ask for a no vote on this amendment in order to keep that notification in place. I think it's important that that's remains in the bill.
Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The notification is in place in other forms. It can be on their website. They can have it in writing, but it just doesn't require it, just in case a business that is already doing this does not get this notification and they don't post it, then it could lead to an issue, which is why it's being removed.
Is there any
ask
further
for a yes vote on the amendment.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L008. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The noes have it. The amendment fails.
To the bill.
Representative Landgraf to the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. By now, you should probably have this bill memorized. I've been up here so much. So I made the mistake in my notes of writing it is a simple bill. I should know better than ever doing that. And all it does is set in statute a policy that many of our private employees are doing now anyway. It passed the Senate unanimous, passed the Senate floor unanimous. It allows private employers to give preference to veterans when hiring. It does not require that they do that. It allows it. And it creates an affirmative defense if necessary. And I wanted to let you know, and I did give this to the majority leader last night, 44 states since 2016, 44 states that I can get information on. I ran out of time on the others. I was told 49 states have passed this, but I can prove 44. So I'm not sure why we would not want Colorado to be at least the 45th. And many of these states have gone further to include spouses. We're not doing that here. All we're doing is saying that if you want to give veterans preference, you may. I ask for a yes vote.
Representative Corva-Rubiz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, here's what it looks like. You go in the military, you go to boot camp. The entire time is not just training and running. There was a lot of practical knowledge, a lot of classroom work. After that, I went to engineering school in North Carolina. So you do a lot of classroom work, engineering work, school work, and practical application out in the field. Then when you get to your duty station, you actually apply everything that you have learned throughout those years. Some of the other education that comes with that is traveling around the world and dealing with cultures and that sort of a thing. So as you have a veteran that you're looking at to hire, if they have the same qualifications, you have an outstanding member who is going to be a good part of your team, who understands all of those qualities and is embedded in them at the moment they come to you. So I would urge a strong yes vote. Thank you.
Representative Liston.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Members, I rise in support of Senate Bill 44. Down in Colorado Springs, we do have a lot of retired military, and when I saw this bill, it made me think about one of my constituents who served, I believe, 11 or 12 years in the United States Navy, and his area of expertise, he worked on very complex mechanical, heating and engineering and cooling systems on our naval ships. And he knew, heating and plumbing, what it amounts to, coming and going, working on sophisticated ships. And then when he retired or got out of the Navy, quite frankly, he had a hard time with all of his practical experience, great experience, working on these sophisticated ships, of getting the necessary employment from employers because he didn't have the, I'll say, the journeyman's license or the apprentice license, even though he had learned all of this in the United States Navy. So I think this really makes this is a good idea. I urge support for Senate Bill 44. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The question I have for the bill sponsor is, how does this policy set up by this bill intersect with federal and state anti-discrimination laws? My concern is that an employer adopts a veteran preference policy, and we all want to see our veterans employed, and you and I have sponsored bills to promote veteran employment, but I don't want an employer to run afoul of federal and state anti-discrimination or civil rights laws by hiring a veteran and thus thereby maybe unintentionally discriminating against another employee who's in a protected class. So that's my concern, is to ensure that employers aren't presented with this conflict in law.
Representative Sane.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The state and the federal government already offer veterans preference. I should know, since I hired a lot of them.
Representative Sandridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was actually surprised when this bill came up that we actually needed something like this. I hired many veterans in my day. I hired them because they had certain skills, certain knowledge, certain work ethics. Just like I hired people with college degrees, they have certain educational backgrounds. That's why I hired them. Didn't really hire them because they're veterans. I hired them for their knowledge, for their skills, for their hard work. I think this bill is important to protect employers in hiring the most skilled workers. And something else too to note, we want to make sure we do take care of our most vulnerable people. A lot of these people go into the military to obtain skills, to obtain experiences, so they are marketable when we get out. So we want to make sure we protect these people as well. So with that said, I ask for a yes vote. Thank you.
Representative Benavides.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I voted against this bill in committee, and I'm going to bring a substantive amendment to change this on thirds. But just to let you know, in committee we had zero, absolutely no witnesses. We had no testimony about the need for veterans to obtain a preference. In Colorado, for months now, probably getting into the second year, we have hovered around 3% as far as our unemployment rate, which means there's jobs out there and people are getting those jobs. That 3% is the overall rate. But you know who has a higher rate than 3%? Blacks and Latinos. So if we are going to address and put a preference in place, we need to put the preference in place where there's a need. There's been absolutely no showing whatsoever that veterans are facing challenges. And I know that we have heard that veterans did go and provided service for this country. I don't disagree. My sister is a retired veteran, and she had all of that training and background, and she went out and got a job when she got back, and she had no problems. And at a 3% overall unemployment rate, people are not facing problems finding employment. With that in mind, I'll be bringing an amendment to ask that we do a study to find where the need is. And if there's groups that need preferences in employment, let's put those preferences in place. And when there's a showing that veterans are struggling to get jobs, and more than other groups, because the study will include a comparative analysis, then that's what we need to do. But we don't make laws without any evidence of a need. When I came here last year, that was one of the first things. If there's a problem, let's fix it. If there's no problem, what are we doing? There is no problem here, and there's been no evidence of a problem. So I would urge a no vote on this bill. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Representative Singh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There wasn't any witnesses in committee because this should have been an easy bill to pass. It's easy to forget we live in a time made safe by others. And I think that your private businesses should have the same ability as the federal and state government to give preference to veterans. We don't need a study to do that. I think this is a stalling tactic. And a lot of these veterans, it's very, there's a lot of minorities. And this disproportionately would benefit minorities if this bill would pass. So I'd urge a yes vote. I mean, a no vote on a study.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And members, I have strong concerns about this bill, as I've already expressed here on the floor and in committee. We are now justifying and giving a preference in the private sector that no other group has. And we don't have really any evidence that this group needs it. I'm glad to hear that my colleague from El Paso County hires veterans for their skills, but that's it. He's hiring them for their skills, not because necessarily they were a veteran. And I'm all for that. I'm all for hiring somebody for their education or for their skills or for their experience. And a lot of times the experience that you get in the military is a unique experience. So I absolutely agree with that in terms of hiring for experience. But giving someone a preference simply on this basis is wrong. It's not necessarily what we should be doing for a group that doesn't need that help or that benefit. There are other groups that need help and they need these types of benefits and these types of preferences, but we don't do that. We allow employers to figure out who's the best qualified candidate, not who's the best candidate because they did X or Y arbitrarily. So with that, members, I do hold strong reservations on Senate Bill 44.
Minority Leader Neville.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, 35-0 out of the other chamber. 35-0. Passed through with flying colors, about 15 minutes of time. And here we are creating some controversy over something that's not controversial. This is totally permissive. Usually I'm the guy that's, as a veteran myself, voting against a lot of these bills that I think give veterans preference. This is totally permissive, allowing a private employer to do something that would actually benefit veterans. And when I say veterans, I have never served in a more diverse environment ever in my entire life than I did in the military. All kinds of people come together and serve in the military, and that was by far the most diverse environment I've ever been in. So this would benefit all those folks who I served with if the employer chooses to. This is the kind of bill that I like, that actually will help veterans without casting a negative connotation towards them. But again, 35-0 in the Senate. Don't know what we're doing in the House. I urge a yes vote.
Further discussion? Representative Landgraf.
Division.
A division has been called. Is there any further discussion at this time? All right, a division has been called.
I'm going to sit right in front. That way people will say Salazar, stand up. You can see it right here. And if I do have to stand up, on the bench. Look around you.
Jokes get old after a while. It's the whole thing.
For a division. I withdraw my request for a division.
And everybody showed up. The request for the division has been withdrawn. So, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill. The question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 44. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 44 is adopted. Mr. Rando, please read the title of Senate Concurrent Resolution 003.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 3 by Senators Marble and Penneberg, House Representative Sane and Pabon, concerning submitting to the registered electors of the state of Colorado an amendment to the Colorado Constitution concerning changing the industrial hemp definition from a constitutional definition to a statutory definition.
Representative Sane.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, it used to be a patriotic duty to grow hemp. The USS I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to move SCR 18-003.
The resolution has been properly moved. Representative Sane.
Thank you. I was just so excited about this. The USS Constitution, or Old Ironsides, was actually rigged with hemp because it was mold-proof and a very strong fiber. And Colorado is a leader in the nation today for hemp products, things such as bulletproof vests, such as hempcrete, which reduces mold and is fire-resistant. There's an amazing amount of products used with hemp today. And so what this resolution is doing is asking the voters to put the concentration into statute so that we can be flexible enough to make sure that Colorado stays #1 in hemp production in the country.
Representative Pabon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and it's my honor and privilege or Madam Chair, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, to bring this resolution with my friend and colleague, Representative Lori Sane. You don't see a Pabon-Sane combo too much in this building, but something like hemp can bring us together because this is a nonpartisan, bipartisan issue. We really do take heed of Amendment 64 and what the voters told us to do with hemp, and as a result, we have established one of the most robust hemp markets in the country. But that being said, our Constitution gives us very little wiggle room on the THC limits as defined for hemp, and with the federal farm bill in play and other federal work in this area, we want to make sure that if this is deemed ultimately a piece of interstate commerce, to keep with whatever that standard may be, keep in line with other states, and that will allow the flow of commerce, the flow of products, the flow of capital, which is what our farmers deserve and need. to find a viable marketplace. And so what this does is says, voters, please consider changing the definition of hemp out of our Constitution, giving us a little bit more discretionary authority, either in our federal or state statutes, to set that limit. And that way we have the maximum flexibility to maximize our farmers' livelihoods and families. Ask for an aye vote.
Representative Singh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I urge an aye vote.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Concurrent Resolution 003. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Concurrent Resolution 003 is adopted. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1422.
House Bill 1422 by Representative Gray, House Senator John, concerning requirements for marijuana testing facilities.
Representative Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move, excuse me, House Bill 1422, the Appropriations Committee report and the Finance Committee report.
To the Appropriations Committee report.
Thank you. This morning, the Appropriations Committee appropriated money to this bill, and I would ask for your support.
Is there any further discussion on the Appropriations Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Appropriations Committee report is adopted. To the Finance Committee report, Representative Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this point, I would move Amendment L003 to the Finance Committee report and ask that it be displayed, if we'd be so kind.
The amendment has been properly moved and is displayed. To Amendment L003.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. This amendment makes clear that when we talk about an accredited authority approving one of the laboratories that is involved here, that accreditation is in fact coming from the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation. And I would ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L003? Seeing before us, the question is the adoption of Amendment L003. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Amendment L003 is adopted.
I would have come to you.
Is there further discussion on the Appropriations Committee report? Seeing none, the question Finance Committee report. Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Finance Committee report. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The Finance Committee report is adopted.
I'm okay with it.
To the bill, Representative Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Guys, this bill, we had a good hearing in the Finance Committee. This bill would actually bring our marijuana testing facilities up to the same type of scientific standards that you see in a lot of other industries. It's a bill that does have a lot of support for that reason. Part of our process here in Colorado has been bringing our cannabis industry in line with other businesses and to treat them that way. This actually raises the standards for these testing facilities to make sure that the scientific work they do is the same as the scientific work for other industries, and I would ask for an aye vote.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1422. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1422 is adopted. Madam Majority Leader Becker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we rise and report.
Seeing no objection, the committee will rise and report.
The House will come to order. Mr. Randall, please read the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Madam Speaker, the Committee of the Whole basically report as Secretary for the attached bills being a segment of the recommendations there on House Bill 1397 amended House Bill 1418 is amended House Bill 1422 is amended House Bill 1425 is amended House Bill 1427 amended as amended House Bill 1433 passes third reading or gross place count of third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 44 is previously amended. Senate Bill 235, Senate Bill 239, Senate Concurrent Resolution 3 passed on second reading or revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Representative Jackson. All right, members, you have heard the motion. There are no amendments at the desk. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote on the report of the Committee of the Whole. Representative Sayas, Lundin, McKean, Liston, Covarrubias, Buck, and Bridges. Where is everybody? Representative Sayas, Lundin, McKean, Liston, Bridges. Please vote. Representative Bridges, that'll be $2.
People are waiting on. Still 3 other people.
Thank you, Representative Bridges.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Liston, Lundin, and Representative Sayas will all be excused and all be fined $10. We have lots of work to do. Please close the machine, Mr. Randall. With 54 yes votes, 7 no votes, and 4 excused, the report of the Committee of the Whole is adopted. All right, announcements and introductions. I have a couple today. Representative Kennedy will replace Representative Singer on the Local Government Committee today only. Representative Coleman will replace Representative Foote, and Representative Kraft-Tharp will replace Representative Benavides on the Finance Committee today only. Representative Sane will replace Representative Leonard in the Education Committee today only. Lots of changes. All right, Representative Foote.
All right, thank you, Madam Speaker. State Affairs, we have a meeting upon adjournment today, which is unusual. So just so you know, it's upon adjournment today. It will start at 11 o'clock in room 271. room 271 today upon adjournment. So one thing I want you to know is that our first two bills, Senate Bill 228 and 77, will go 1 and 2, of course. We have Senate Bill 221 where there will be remote testimony, and that has to start at 1:30 because of the arrangements with the remote testimony location. So if it turns out that we're done with 228 and 77 earlier than 1:30, we will be moving, you'll just have to be flexible. We may be moving a bill or two up, including House Bill 1426 and or Senate Bill 220. We will work with the sponsors to the extent that we can to make sure that everybody is accommodated. Just be ready that we might have to move your bill up a little bit earlier on the calendar than is anticipated, just because we have to deal with this 1:30 deadline for Senate Bill 221. The other bills will remain the same. Senate Bill 61, 193, and 230 will remain the same on the calendar. We must be done by 5:30 today, I'm told, so there will be limitations on testimony and Q&A so we can get through all of our bills by 5:30. Thank you.
All right, further announcements or introductions? Representative Young.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, members of Appropriations, and those who think they have bills and appropriations. We will be having a meeting in the well today upon the call of the House. And the bills at this point in the queue for that meeting will be House Bill 1230, House Bill 1390, House Bill 1421, Senate Bill 231, and Senate Bill 254. But members, I reserve the right to add other bills to that agenda, and I will make that announcement here in the well before the meeting begins. So at least those 5 for now, but others may be in the queue. Thank you.
Further announcements and introductions. Representative Michelson Janaeus, who I saw who has been patiently waiting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Members, I would like to welcome an elected official that is in the room today. We have Leah Dozman over here, who is a city councilor from Wheat Ridge, who also happened to be my former student from Metro State. Please give a round of applause to Leah Dozman. Welcome.
Welcome to the Capitol. Representative Winter.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members of Transportation and Energy, listen closely because we are adding one bill. So we will be adding 268 to our calendar. We are also hearing Senate Bill 226 and Senate Bill 1 today.
All right. Further announcements or introductions. Representative Pedersen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members of the House Education Committee will be hearing House Bill 1437 as well today. It was introduced. So add that to your list. See you 10 minutes upon adjournment.
All right. Any further announcements or introductions? Representative Pabon.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the House Finance Committee will meet in approximately 10 minutes to discuss at least three bills on our calendar, and there may be any bills that are referred out of committee that then get read across to Finance may be added to the calendar today. So just be ready, and let's go Finance.
Further announcements or introductions? Madam Majority Leader Becker.
Thank you. Members, at 7:30 tomorrow morning is a meeting of the Executive Committee of Legislative Council where the Investigations Law Group will be answering questions sent to them regarding their report on legislative workplace study. So you all sent in questions to them about their recommendations on the workplace harassment policy, and they will be in room 271 during an executive committee meeting to answer any questions you may have. So you all are invited to that meeting tomorrow, 7:30 in the morning, if you're interested in the workplace harassment recommendations that they made.
Members, Madam Majority Leader Becker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Also, we will be coming back to the floor today at 5:30. So hope we will see you then and there, and looking forward to a fun, interesting late night.
I think it'll be all of those things. All right, we do have some things to read across the desk. Let's start with that. Reports of committees of reference.
There's another announcement.
Oh, we have before that more announcements and introductions. Oh, Representative Weissman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was going to ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Yes. Members, a motion of personal privilege has been granted.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, I wanted to take just a minute and speak about an issue that we deal with down here sometimes that is important to me, that I think ought to be important to all of us. That is the issue of sexual assault in our society, and particularly on college campuses. I received an email, some other members may have received it as well, and it grabbed me and bothered me enough that I wrote back to the woman who sent it, and we traded a few emails, and I received her permission to read this statement in this well. I'll say in advance it may be a little bit hard for some members here to hear, but I think that we need to hear the hard things in order to do the right things sometimes. So here's the letter. Dear member of the Colorado General Assembly, it wasn't until recently that I got over my fear of Honda CR-Vs. I know it sounds ridiculous. He drove a Honda CR-V. I used to have panic attacks driving, seeing that car everywhere. It's a popular car. It must get good gas mileage. I was raped in fall 2016. She gives the exact date. I'm not reading that date for privacy reasons. I was 18 and it was my freshman year of college. I still can't tell my parents. We lived across from each other throughout the entire campus investigative process. I saw him at least once a day. A piece of me died at least once a day. It's hard to think about now. I'm actively trying to block the whole experience out of my mind because it consumed me for far too long. I don't want to forget how strong I am, though. I don't want to forget that this happens to people like me all the time. This happens all the time. I wish I could possibly convey how ridiculously terrible every part of it was. I can't. I wouldn't want anyone to experience it like I did. What I can convey is the absolute, irrefutable need for a clear, consistent, and timely process. My case took nearly 4 months before a decision was made, which is almost the entire semester. 4 months of living across from him, 4 months of classes that I failed and he got to pass. 4 months of developing an eating disorder because I couldn't go into the campus dining hall for fear of running into him. If the bill had become law when I went through the campus investigative process as a victim of sexual assault, I wouldn't have had to wait 4 months. I would have had the right to a timely investigation. Being a survivor of sexual assault is being a part of a club you didn't sign up for. There are shared experiences between survivors, similar feelings. Most importantly, there are shared responsibilities. As a survivor, I feel it's my responsibility to share my story and to do my part in protecting others from this completely preventable tragedy. Every time I see a Honda CR-V now, I am reminded of how much work there is to do, working for myself, for others, working to change the toxic culture on campus. And members, I wanted to read this letter, and I wanted all of us to hear this letter because I view that as some small part of my doing what I think is my responsibility to address this issue. I was looking up data this morning, and one statistic showed that 23% of women, and some percentage of men too, but 23% of women in an undergrad setting on college campus will be raped in their time there. If we think about flu, if we think about cancer, or any other thing, we would call that what it is, which is an epidemic, and we need to deal with it. Thank you.
Further announcements or introductions? Seeing no further announcements or introductions, members, I do want to encourage you to come to the briefing tomorrow at 7:30 with the Executive Committee to review potential changes to the harassment policy. Director Fitzsimons is also going to be giving a presentation on recommendations that he has. With that, any further announcements or introductions? Going once, going twice? Seeing none, Madam Majority Leader Becker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House stand in recess till 1 o'clock today.
Can you? Thank you.
Withdraw that motion.
That motion is withdrawn. Reports of committees of reference.
Committee on Judiciary, after considering the merits of the committee following House Bill 1436 as be amended as follows, and as amended be referred to the committee of the whole with favorable recommendation.
Printing report.
Chief Clerk reports the following bill has been correctly printed. House Bill 1437.
Message from the Senate, you're passed.
Madam Speaker, the Senate has postponed indefinitely House Bill 1420, 1298, 1297, 1212, and 1177.
All right, thank you, Mr. Randall. With that, Madam Majority Leader Becker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House stand in recess till 1 o'clock today.
Seeing no objection, the House will stand in recess until 1 p.m. today.